Alright, so let's get into the reason why I had to take the carburetors off my bike. These are the spark plugs from left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you can see, number one, it's been running pretty rich. Nasty. And 2, 3, and 4 are, they aren't really good, but they aren't super nasty. So basically what happened is the bike started smoking when I started up. Like the cold start, it would start fine, it would start warming up. Once I brought it down off a high idle, it would basically start smoking out the exhaust. And actually it was actually like dripping back from the exhaust muffler too. Like where the pipe goes up into the muffler, there's actually something dripping out of there, which obviously must have been gas. So ended up taking the carbs off and started investigating what was going on. I thought, well, I got the carbs off of there, so I'm just going to go ahead and buy a jet kit and, you know, do it the right way. So ended up getting a jet kit, and basically what was happening is these needles, I mean, they're pretty screwed up. Like this one doesn't even have a cap on it anymore. It's like a little rubber tip. So basically what happened is I was having issues with the bike, so I kind of propped the tank up so I could look at the carburetors while the bike was running. And I noticed on the number one carburetor there's actually fuel just kind of coming out of here. It was like puddling up, and it was actually getting sucked into the venturi. So my guess is, you know, the needle in the float bowl was not shutting. So what happened was this bowl just kept getting fuel and getting fuel and getting fuel, and then started bubbling out of the vent, causing a super rich condition. So took the carbs off, got them pulled apart. You know, got this Factory Pro jet kit. It's got the different air needles, and I had to buy needles and gaskets, bowl gaskets. So here's what one of the new ones look like. So got these pulled apart, cleaned up, new needles in there, put all the different jets and all that in there. And while I had the carbs off the bike, that's why I decided to do the starter. So I'm about to put the carbs back on, but I thought, well, I'm going to pull the plugs and take a look at what's going on with the spark plug. So, which getting the spark plugs out is quite a bit easier without the carbs on there, so that's kind of nice. So basically my plan is I'm going to clean these up best I can. I got new ones already, but I'm going to clean these up and put them back in there. Get the carbs on there. I bought a K&N air filter. I basically want to get it back together and get it running again, because probably going to have to screw around with the carbs to get them dialed in. And really don't want to do that with fresh spark plugs in there, because chances are I'm just going to end up, if I make a mistake, I'm just going to ruin the new plugs. So like I said, I'm just going to clean up these, get them back in there, got to throw these carbs back on and see what happens, see if it'll start up. Alright, just cleaned up the plugs. Nothing too crazy. used a B12 chem tool, fuel system cleaner. Put it in a little container. Toothbrush. Not getting crazy, just want to clean them off, throw them back in the bike. Alright, getting ready to put the carbs back on. And took some of this Marvel Air Tool oil and I just kind of rubbed some around those rubber boots, and I put some around the carburetor too, where the throttle bodies are going to slide in there. Just put a little on the carburetor as well. Alright, so I had paper towels in there to keep any debris from getting in there. And the one thing that kind of impressed me, these intake valves look really clean. I don't know if I can get a shot of them. I was kind of surprised. Very clean. Really can't get a good camera angle on it, but yeah, all the intake valves are like virtually spotless. Pretty nice. Alright, push the carbs back on there. I'm gonna have to kind of, I would get this side in first and slide the right side in, and just kind of keep rocking them back and forth. You know, you can get your fingers down there and try to feel for those rubber boots. It's really a lot of this stuff, you're just kind of doing it by braille and feel. So got to push back on there, and there's 4 Allen heads, and they're kind of hard to get to. Probably the easiest ones to get to are cylinder 2 and 4. 4 comes from the back side, and then 3, 2, and 1 are from the front. Let's see if I can. Now if you see that shiny Allen head in there, so you got to come in through the side to get number 4. But the other 3 are from the front, and at least 2 you can kind of see it through the top here. So 1 and 3 are going to be pretty difficult to see. And I'm using this I don't know, probably should have got, there's kind of like screwdrivers that have these Allen heads on them. It's a 3mm. So you might actually want to get the, they make it's like a screwdriver Allen head. You might want to pick up quite a few different ones because it's really tight. So yeah, I gotta snug the boots up. I already connected, this is like a coolant line. Put that union back together. I ran the idle cable. Comes around here. And when you go to take that off, you just push it up. It'll pop out of here. Just push it up out of that bracket. But got to hook up the fuel. There's a throttle position sensor that has to be connected. This connector right here. I got to run the choke cable back, and I got to hook up I got tape on them over here. The actual throttle cables. See the ones with tape on it? I marked them top and bottom. So yeah, it's kind of involved. It's definitely time consuming. Gotta have a lot of patience for this. Alright, it's gonna be really hard to explain, but I'm gonna give it a shot. I had to reconnect the choke cable, which is down here. Right there, that little screw holds a bracket. And there's the cable. It's really hard to see this. The end of that cable has kind of like a barrel on it, and what you want to do is bring the cable out. Let's see. So to hook this up, have the cable come loop around this way, okay, so that the line can slide into that. There's an opening. So there's a barrel on the end of that cable, so make sure the cable's looping around like this, and then get that barrel underneath that hole and slide it up. Slide the barrel into the hole, and the cable end should slide through that opening, and then it'll just slide to the side. And then it's just a little Phillips head, tighten that down. Actually, I think a lot of these screws are they call JIS, Japanese Industry Standard. I think that's why a lot of guys end up stripping them out. And I myself don't have any JIS screwdrivers, so I guess I need to get some. Alright, so the next part of this is getting into hooking up these throttle cables. There's two of them. There's an upper and a lower. And this is what I was talking about on that choke cable, that little barrel. So you get kind of an idea with this. See how the throttle has those openings? So those cables have to run around. The top cable goes around the top part of that circle, and the lower cable goes around the bottom part that way. And back in there, that little bracket holds the cables, and the cables actually have like it's kind of like a set nut on it. So I know it's going to be really painful to watch. It's difficult to even film this, but hopefully it's going to help somebody. Alright, so I pulled the cables out so you get a little better look at them. And that's the jam nut I was talking about. Same thing on the upper cable. And then when I took this apart, I just marked that was the top cable. And probably gonna clean these off. Oh yeah, and I got the throttle all ripped apart too. Same thing with the choke lever. That all pulled apart. So yeah, I got these two pieces with the jam nuts on there. They have to go up into that bracket, and then you have to swing those cables around onto the throttle plate. Alright, so here's the cables again. I cleaned them up. Just used a wax and grease remover. And then this one cable is a little frayed. Kind of see that? It's probably not good. But I guess that's what the emergency stop button's for. I'm gonna live dangerously and just let it slide. So yeah, once again, Marvel Air Tool oil, which I'm sure Yamaha considers to be an excellent cable lube. I don't know. I figured something was better than nothing because I don't really have any cable lube, so just kind of drip some in there and just hold them up to let the oil get down in there a little bit before I mount these. Alright, I got the cables on there. Got them in the brackets, and all of those nuts are 10 mils. So what I had to do is I had to bring the cables forward, get them hooked up first, and then you're gonna have to push them back. You have to pull the slack back out of them to get them into those brackets. Okay. And if you lost track of top and bottom, see how the bottom one's got this bigger jam nut or whatever this is, adjustment nut. The top one's got a shorter one, so you don't get them messed up. So I gotta sneak a 10 mil in there and tighten those up. Well, that was super irritating, but I think I got it. Show you how I did it. Basically, came over here and just kind of got on the bike like I'm gonna ride it, and just come in from this side, and you're basically gonna do the endless wrench flipping. So it's like you can only get like maybe a 1/16 of a turn on these things. So you get the wrench in there, you know, you're only going to be able to move it so far, then you're going to have to flip the wrench so you can grab it again. And I did both of them like that. So I got them tightened up. I think that's got something to do with adjusting your cable free play or slack or whatever, so it's probably totally wrong right now. I'm going to find that out later. We'll see. Alright, so I went ahead and connected the fuel line from the pump. And these little clips, I've been using just robo grips. So like I'll, you know, get the robo grip on there and you can squeeze it and move it back or whatever. So that's how I'm doing that. And I also connected the throttle position sensor plug right here, this white one. So got that done. And now I gotta tackle this throttle and choke. So I think I'll try doing the choke. Alright, so at this piece got a couple screws that go in it. Got the cable sitting here. This is the other half of it. It's got a couple screws. And got the actual lever. I'll have to run this cable through the lever. Alright, got the choke back together. It's pretty self-explanatory. You got two screws going in there. You know, you gotta run the cable through the lever and you know, snug them both up. Don't go crazy, it's all plastic, so you don't want to break anything, but I would tighten this one first and then snug up the bottom and then just, you know, operate it and make sure that that choke cable's moving. So that's good. Alright, so finishing up the throttle side. There's a Phillips head down here. There's another one here. Underneath there. And this one kind of holds a plate on there. That one right there. So I mean, I took all this off, I backed this, there's a little, kind of like a thumb screw here. I mean, I loosened all this stuff up because supposedly you have to for the throttle cables, but I don't know. You might actually be able to do it without messing around with any of this. So if I was going to do it again, I think I would just loosen up the cables at the carburetor and see if I can get them off. Probably wouldn't even have to mess around with this. So it's all good. Can't really see, but it's like everything's working. So got the choke taken care of, and throttle seems like it's okay. Alright, so just kind of running through everything, double checking, made sure all the coils are plugged in. I had stuffed some rags into the velocity stack, so I pulled those out. That TPS sensor is plugged in. I think I'm ready to just reconnect the battery, and I'm going to throw the tank back up here and prop it up and try starting this thing, see what happens. Alright, I got the tank back on there. Got it propped up with zip ties. Just put the bolt in here in the back. You know, just screw it in there. Don't really want to tighten it up so you can lift the tank up, but keep it in there to hold it. I got the fuel line hooked up, put the clamp on. That's all good to go. So, you know, you gotta figure these carbs are completely dry of fuel, so I'm probably gonna cycle the key a few times and then try to fire this thing up. And also got my trusty fire extinguisher with the safety pin removed. Never be too safe. Don't know what's gonna happen. So battery's all hooked up, ready to go. Alright, and don't forget to turn the fuel flow back on, petcock valve. Alright, well, I missed a coolant hose hookup, which has resulted in coolant everywhere. At least I had a pan under there, so that worked out good. So, yeah, I'm going to top it off with distilled water. And the hose that I missed, thankfully enough I could get to it. I doubt you're going to be able to see it, just like the rest of this video. There's actually a coolant hose that goes into the side of the carburetor here. It's like right, let's see. Oh, where my finger's at, but you can't see that either. Let's see, hold on a second. Alright, so this hose that I'm pointing at, if you can even see it, it's like a coolant hook up to the carburetor. There's one on the other side too. So obviously, see it right here. This is a coolant line right here. It's the same thing on this side. So luckily I, through this hole in the side could sneak in there, and I had to use some needle nose pliers because it's got a little spring clamp. So got that back on there, got the coolant in, put this cap back on and start it up again. Alright, let's try this again without a coolant spill.